After falling short time and time again, it seemed like the Packers' playoff chances were all but nothing, until a recent turnaround helped them get back to the spotlight. So let's talk about it.
Rodgers backs up to buy time to the end zone. Touchdown, Robert Tonyan.
Following back-to-back MVP wins behind two of his best seasons in Green Bay, going into 2022, it was seemingly a given that Rodgers would do his thing again and the Packers would be one of the best teams in the league like always. Early on, it seemed like everything was swell and dandy as Green Bay started off 3-1, behind some pretty solid performances from Discount Double Check. But the fun times didn't last all that long.
Said he ran 83 yards on that return. Again!
One or two losses are fine, but 5 in a row is extremely concerning, especially when it comes against teams that the Packers would usually demolish like Detroit and New York. The thing about it is that Aaron didn't even play all that bad, actually pretty average for him, and yet they still couldn't find a way to win. Usually as long as Rodgers plays well, Green Bay wins, and wins a lot, so the countless losses had many people scratching their heads. And as you could guess, like always, the football world took the story and ran with it, as many thought that the Packers were done for. Keep in mind at this point that they were sitting at 3-6, tied with the Bears and Lions, while the Vikings were chilling at 8-1, as they were in complete control of a division that Green Bay used to have on lock. Who would have thought that in only a year, the Vikings went from an afterthought to not only the best in the division, but one of the best teams in the league?
Not me.
Midway through the season, the Packers were not only playing well below expectations, they were playing like a team that had next to no direction, and a team that wasn't able to find their own on both sides of the ball. Although Aaron doesn't usually put up insane stats, you could tell that he was missing Davante Adams quite a bit. Because I mean, it's one thing to lose a decent wide receiver, or even a half good one, but when you lose your very best target, and one of the very best talents in football, it gets a whole lot trickier. If you look at Davante's stat line the past few years, you can begin to understand why a drop-off by Rodgers was pretty much inevitable. And so I feel like a lot of people are downplaying just how difficult it is when you lose your number one target. For Aaron, it wasn't just any regular number one. Davante is arguably one of, if not the best wide receivers in the league, so I'm sure he wasn't all that happy to lose him. The Packers' receiving core without Davante was anything but predictable, considering that good old Allen Lazard became the number one, and two of the other three were rookies. Considering that Davante provided consistency in what was one of the most random receiving rooms in the league, with him gone, the lack of it made it really tough on Aaron, and I guess it led the team to that whole 3-6 start, but there was still a bit of a rocky road ahead.
Sets up, looks long, lets it go for Lazard, it's picked off!
Although they were somehow able to take out the pretty on-fire Dallas Cowboys in overtime, it wasn't able to help them the following 2 weeks as they dropped to 4-8, and for the first time in what feels like a century, fell below the Lions. When you have a future Hall of Famer on your team, especially someone who is coming off of back-to-back MVP wins, you don't expect to go 4-8. But no matter how good you are, there are always going to be struggles and always going to be challenges. And I guess Rodgers just had it too good for too long. Or maybe it was just the fire the Packers needed to bounce back big time. If you got this far into the video, it would be radical if you could subscribe, like, turn on post notifications, and comment down below who you think is going to win the Super Bowl. But anyways, back to the video. You would think it would be behind some MVP level play from Aaron to lead Green Bay back to the place they had been for a decade, but surprisingly enough it wasn't. All the while the team went 4-8, Rodgers played decent, maybe a bit below his normal and a decent bit below the MVP years, but it wasn't bad enough to warrant the record. Keep in mind that Aaron was also dealing with a thumb injury on his throwing hand since week 5, so it starts to paint a much clearer picture about why it's been such a down year for him. There were quite a few factors behind the quote-unquote collapse that Green Bay had, and I think their defensive struggles didn't necessarily help on an offense that was in the mud without Davante. Imagine if you took Stephon Diggs out of Buffalo. Trust me, Josh would have quite a large dip in production no matter what happened. So all this wasn't necessarily out of the blue. And truthfully, like I said before, I don't think people are giving Discount Double Check the credit that he probably deserves. The fact that he didn't lead on the thumb injury or whine about missing Davante all season long is really commendable, and I think the karma has started to kick in.
Rodgers on the run. Pump fake, frees him to the end zone for another Packer touchdown.
A win against Chicago the following week was nice, but at this point kind of expected considering just how underwhelming the Bears had been this year. Although it seemed like the Packers were still going through the motions, coming out of the bye week, it was as if something changed in Green Bay, and the win started to roll in as they took out LA, then Miami, and then somehow did this.
There's the pass down the middle, and it's broken up and intercepted. Got blockers in front. Only Cousins is down there. He won't get him.
To say that the turnaround was expected is like saying that the dinosaurs knew that the asteroid was coming, because I can confidently say that I had zero clue that the Packers would find their own after falling off so much. Usually a winning streak like this would be a result of Aaron doing his thing, but in that time he has only thrown 4 touchdowns along with 2 picks, which is not anything even close to special, especially for a 4-time MVP like Rodgers. So with that in mind, it seems like some of the other studs on the offense and defense have helped out quite a bit. And although Aaron Jones has done well, it doesn't seem like this has been as much an offensive effort as it seems due to good defensive play. If you look at the last 4 games, they have allowed 20 or fewer points every single time, and that's expected against teams like Chicago and LA. But when you do that with Miami and Minnesota, it's a whole different story. Against the Vikings last week, they scored a touchdown on a kickoff return and had a 75-yard pick 6, which made it very easy on Aaron, as he barely had to do anything to put them away with only around 150 yards and a touchdown through the air. To say that all this stuff is a good sign is a massive understatement, because for one, playing this well at the end of the season is super important going into the playoffs. But when you add that to the fact that it's been on both sides of the ball, it makes the Packers dangerous in what could be one of the most unpredictable playoffs ever. I talked about a lot of this in the Brady video, but when I say that the NFC is unpredictable, I mean it, especially for a team that has veteran talent like Green Bay. Not only has Rodgers played in big games, but so has pretty much every other player on the team, considering that they barely lost in the divisional last year.
Kick was down the middle and good! 49ers win it!
A Super Bowl run could be asking quite a lot for a team that was 4-8 only a few weeks ago. But crazier things have happened, and although they don't have Devontae anymore, they've proven that they have enough talent to win big games consistently, especially with the emergence of a stud like Christian Watson in the receiving core. So now it's just up to whether or not they'll be able to giddy up and actually do it. Interestingly enough, it's looking like if they beat Detroit and clinch a playoff spot at the 7th seed, a trip back to San Francisco to play the Brock Purdy-led 49ers could be pretty dang likely. As long as the Packers, 49ers, Eagles, and Cowboys all win, Rodgers will take a trip back to the place that he's been oh so many times before, with the hopes of proving that he's still that guy.
Rodgers throws for Adams, and that was a thing of beauty.
Seems like quite a lot has to go right for the scenario to play out, but as long as the Packers beat Detroit, the other 3 teams are almost certainly going to win based on the record alone. But I mean, you really never know what may happen. Honestly though, no matter who they play, no matter where they go, it's going to come down to whether or not Aaron will start playing like an MVP for them to win again. Because just getting by isn't enough to beat a team like San Francisco, or Philly, or Dallas. I have a feeling that experience will help discount Double-Check quite a bit if they have a chance against any of those teams, but it sure as hell won't make it easy. Anyways, what do you guys think? Are Aaron Rodgers and the Packers back and ready to win some big games, or are they going to fall short like they've done year after year? Comment down below your thoughts. Aaron Rodgers has been one of those guys for quite some time, so even though he struggled as of late and the Packers have been anything but consistent, I'm excited to see what he'll be able to do with the season on the line.
2nd and 7, Rodgers trying to escape the pocket here and throws on the run. Wow. Caught by Cobb at the 14.
Thanks for watching the video. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to subscribe, like, turn on post notifications, and comment down below what stuff you want next. But anyways, see you all soon, and God bless.